And here we are on Squam Lake, which is the location where they filmed the movie on Golden Pond. And Denise and I are about to take a tour on what is called the Ethel Fair. And that'll show us where they filmed the movie specifically, and actually the cottage where they filmed the movie. The Norman Fair. Got the back of it.
He's closer to where I started this tour than I used to own the manor. The tour was started as an amenity for the manor's guests. We opened as a couple, and after 2 years we there to fishing guide often a lot of Murdo's market during the movie. Sam Murdo used to own Squam boats. And she left Norman to his own devices, which is something you never want to do with a cranky old man, because in very short order he managed to get himself in trouble with the gas stock boys. He got in an argument about the price of gas. Back in my day, gas 12 cents a gallon, which I'm sure it was, because Henry Fonda's older than I am. It was 11 cents when I was a kid. The gas stock boys, being typical obnoxious teenagers, they said, gee, didn't even know you had gas back in your day. That angered him. Ethel came out of the door and he said, get in, I'll drive. She said, you sure you want to drive? Get in. With that, he drove off and nearly smacked the end of that dock. And the reason why is because everybody does. You saw the trouble he had getting in because of the wind. Normally the wind blows the other way, and it's easier to dock that boat, but terrible to get out from the dock, because the dock is severely angled. They held their breath, and when he barely made the first time, they didn't press their luck. That was the only one take. Later in the movie, Ethel had to get help when Billy and Norman didn't return from fishing. And she parked up on the street, came down the steps, across the dock, and into this boathouse. That's where the postman, Charlie, Holy Mackinac, had his shot. Most of the movie was shot about 5 miles from here. And this boat doesn't have the big charts. This is our old boat, the spare boat. You're getting to go first class on the old boat. At any rate, I'll come up here and do we have a map on that little boat? I'll just be easier, because this one is one half one way and one half the other way. But this is Squam Lake, Little Squam right out here. Oh, well, that's all right. I'll just use this. Superimpose it to right here. We're at the entrance to the river between the two lakes. We're going to go through the river, and 5 miles across the lake, the end of this little point here, protruding out from the center harbor neck peninsula is where their cottage is. The house in the film on Golden. Then we're going to go up to the end of Kimball Island in the middle of the lake. That's where Purgatory Cove is, where the fishing is. They wrecked that. Then we'll go by Chicoro, or Church Island, which doesn't have anything to do with the movie on, but it does have a lovely little inspirational outdoor chapel out on the end of the island. It's kind of reminiscent of the cathedral and pines water backdrop. We'll come back around this way, and we should be back here around about 5.
I'll take that boat.
Well, now I'm in this boat.
That's all right with me, if these folks don't mind.
You need to be over there at 5:30.
Oh, you mean Maneri?
Oh, no, the Maneri.
No, I was talking about
Oh, no, I'll go ahead and do
Denise
this.
and I ate. Oh, got a little drink anyway.
Nobody wants to run this boat because it's the old boat, and when it's windy out there.
It was?
When it's windy out there, you get a little spray.
Nobody said this was the old one?
This is the old boat.
No, we didn't want to go. Were you on the boat yesterday when it was pouring?
No, actually, Marv was. Yeah, he was on it when it was pouring down. I was at home. I live up on a ridge where I can see everything, and when I can't see anything, then I know it's not time to be out on lake anymore. But I do get an occasional kickback. About every 3rd year, she gives me a replacement for the storm and getting their gas and supplies. They came down the river towards us, in front of this boathouse. The camera was set over on that side there. And in this last bay on the way back, we'll see it again, is Loon Magic, which is a sister ship to the Therefore. That's a 1950, 22-foot Chris Craft Sportsman runabout. We'll get a much closer look on the way back. Only major public. They wanted a nice, natural, or virgin appearing shoreline. Good luck in this day and age of real estate development. And, but we do have that for the most part on Big Swamp. They also wanted very little boat traffic to interfere with their filming. That's where the limited access came from.
Or what the movie producers were looking for.
One shot and not in another. Last but not least, they had to throw in their Hollywood ringer. They wanted to be within an easy 2-hour drive of a major city that would have film labs for their dailies and a nice international airport with non-stops out to California and back. With that kind of Hollywood mindset, I wasn't too surprised when I was told they initially started looking at the near outskirts of Manhattan. Anybody here from New Jersey?
Yeah.
Familiar with Lakes Opatcong or Mohawk?
Yes.
A little more value to it than it would have otherwise because of its proximity to the water. It's also my wife's favorite house on the lake.
When you say value, what are we talking about? If you were someone to sell that house, I don't know what the value is.
I'm going to get into that right now.
Oh, see?
Yeah, it would have a little more value because of its proximity to the shore. Fortunately for me, it's not been on the market since we've been up here because my wife's favorite house. She's a screen portrait freak and envisions herself sitting there in the late afternoon, listening to loons while watching the sunset, sipping a cool drink. I don't know what it would be worth if I had to give an offhand guess. I'd say about $750 to $800, but I'm not sure. But during the years that her loons have chicks, she doesn't come out to that island, nor does she allow her friends or relatives to come out there until sometime in mid-July, when the chicks are old enough and mature enough to have left the nest in the island with safety. And that gives you a small island. A lot of rocky, shallow shoals. They are not where you expect them to be. And I'll point that out. Between here and this red marker, the loons are the first bird of birds that are still in existence today. There were birds before the loon, but none that are still around. Depending on which book you read, they've been around 30 to 60 million years, which puts them on the planet a lot longer than man. In fact, they don't have light porous bones like most birds. That combined with the fact they have air sacs they can squeeze the air out of if they need to, allows them to submerge nearly effortlessly. And once beneath the surface, they have very few piers. He's looking down for fish right now. Their bodies are built for swimming. They're sleek, streamlined. They have powerful legs, big webbed feet, not in the middle of their body for walking. At the extreme back end of their body, to 90% of their life on or beneath the surface, only going ashore for nesting. And then they must nest right on the shore. They can easily push off and rapidly retreat back to the safety of the water to get away from land predators such as the raccoon.
Look at them look underwater.
That is how they got their name. Crazy like a loon's an expression. It stems from the fact that loon sounds like lunatic, luna's asylum, and Looney Tunes. That pertains to lunar madness, people and animals that act strangely in full moon. The loon got its name from an old Scandinavian word. It was spelled L-O-N, meant lame, clumsy, or awkward, because of their inability to walk. Now, you can see they're quite large. They're nearly the size of a Canada goose without the long neck. About 3 feet from beak to tail, and a wingspan of up to 4 feet. Males are generally a little larger than females, but like us, a large female will be larger than a small male. So we can't tell them apart by their plumage, their size, nor even by watching the nest. The loon's a liberated bird. The male takes his turn on the nest. He takes the turn in carrying the chick on his back. The best way to tell the difference between a male and female loon is
this right here is this right here. And it all belongs to one family. It has 3 houses on the island.
And so it was a nice vantage point from which to photograph up and down the lake. Mountains in the background that direction. Little Mouse Island here in the foreground this direction. We are down here in a relatively quiet part of the lake where there is very little boat traffic to interfere with their filming. There's also that channel. You can see the marking, so you can see part of that porch railing. If you didn't have the towels, you'd see the unusual Adirondack-style crisscross design of the porch railing. And then you'd know I didn't just pick out any old house in the trees. I wouldn't do that to you. Right where that red canoe is right now, towards us. But as we get closer, you'll be able to see there's big rocks all the way out to the channel here. You can get a boat in and out from this side, but it's not a good place for a boat dock. It was for photographing up and down the lake. Once the movie was over, they pulled the dock down. Their dock is the boathouse that was generally just out of frame during most of the movie. They also made a lot of changes to that house as well. Because prior to the movie, that house had been a simple one-story cottage on piers. And they did all the interiors in that house instead of on a soundstage like most movies. So they needed a lot of room inside. Sorry. At any rate, I'm told the lease would naturally say the house should be returned as leased. To which supposedly they said, well, of course we'll return it to its original state and condition, if that's what you absolutely insist upon. But if you think about it, you may wish to accept it as is, with 2 brand new bedrooms, a brand new bath, and a much larger living room. It qualifies decision.
A lot of rocks.
Did you just call me?
You have to go in between them
What's happening?
because of the rocks.
Guest quarters, which used as Henry Fonda's dressing room during the filming. No upstairs bedroom was visible. The Stars leased homes right across this peninsula, right over on the next bay, and they can just walk back and forth to work. Of course, if you'll recall, he was really back home by the dock all the time. They wouldn't have caught Walter had it not been for Ethel. She's the one who made the boys stay home, fish by the dock, after they got themselves in trouble with the 2 large rocks right here in the foreground. They ran their boat from left to right over that sloping flat rock. Norman fell off the bow. Billy jumped in and they swam to the pyramid-shaped rock. That's where they were marooned, clinging for dear life until Ethel came and mercifully rescued them. Some of you ladies may realize this. I'm sure Jane Fonda and Katharine Hepburn did. The 2 major male characters of the movie wouldn't have made it to the final reel if they hadn't been mercifully rescued by the old people. Katharine Hepburn was still a good athlete while she was up here. She was 73 years old, and she went swimming nearly every day, even when it was cold. And she did dive in right here and do her old swimming sequences. Of course, with the lake another foot to foot and a half lower, Henry Fonda and the boy could stand there at that rock and wait ashore. Where are they?
They're right in there.
He'd get off early because he was the star,
There's another
and
loon.
his daughter had bought the screen rights to the play. He'd get in his boat, come out, this is where he'd be spending this hour of the afternoon. We are not yet home. We only have about 6 trips out of the whole season. However, we're going to look at this afternoon because it's really like we often have a hard time finding it. You don't see them out. You want to own a nice restored wooden Chris-Craft Century or Garwood, which you bring to church on Sunday, not because anybody believes God cares. We all know better than that. But we enjoy the lineup of our lovely wooden boats here on Sunday. We just got a replacement sign that was donated by the parents of the bride of the that got married here just this last Saturday. We had a sign there for many years, but the last anymore, but it's probably worth about $15,000. And thinking about selling it, imagine. Well, she got up from the table.
It's called the Mountain Lodge on... It's a ski resort in the winter, but they have these tramways going up and down the mountains. So you can get a beautiful view of the area. There's a typical tramway. But right now, I think we're just going to go horseback riding. Here it comes! Ah! Let's take one of those. Oh, I got a little, you stuck the tongue out at me. Smile. Denise's tooth hurts today. Loon Mountain's 900. One of these is 6,000 feet. Half the distance we jumped from the plane, and we take horses to the top of one of them. I'm not sure which of the mountain we're staying off of. The Life Theater, where this evening they'll be having live animal shows with bears and eagles and cougars. This is where sometime this week Denise will show off her rollerblading activities, her skills in rollerblading. This is the river right in front of the hotel, where hopefully we'll be able to find some fossils. Alright, let's see if I can do it without killing myself. Ah! Here we go. They couldn't change our reservations for horse rides until today. We have them scheduled tomorrow, so we decided to take the tramway. pieces in there.
Look down, like.
You took it that way, you see stars.
Oh. Yeah, that's all there is. I can't see it. Can I look?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Did you just get back?
Yeah.
I want that rock right there. Let's go down to it.
Well, if I haven't met you before, the folks up here at noon at the corner of the mountain there. Well, my name is Wajod. Wajod is Abenaki. My grandfather was Abenaki and he gave me that name. And Wajod means he who is a mountain. That's why they call me the mountain man. So, you know, if you're free, call me Wajod or mountain man or whatever suits you best. I've been coming up here to Loon now for 5 years. And I met the folks here at Loon a little bit before that. They had heard about me from a fella I trade with. And they said, Kenneth Sam, the naturalist who worked here at the mountain. But they kind of kept after me and I found I come over and I met Mr. Adams, who was president of Loon Mountain at the time. And he said if I would come here, they would build a cabin for me to stay in and take care of pretty much whatever needs I had while I was here and all. And, but I come back over that spring, they actually started building this place. And I felt obligated, I guess you say, to come by and give it a try. The first year I was here, I didn't do terribly well with it. I wasn't used to meeting lots of folks. It made me pretty uncomfortable, but you get used to it. I tell you, from being here, I meet folks now from all over the world, and that's really special. In fact, just a little bit ago, I met a whole group of folks from Russia, so that was pretty interesting and all. Since I first become here, the folks at Loon, they always been after me to stay here in the winter time, and I've always turned them down, and that's because they didn't know what they were doing when they built the cabin. It's true. But when I come back this spring, well, it was quite a messy side, but they had insulated the roof there, and that was really the worst thing about this place. I mean, with that tin up there, your snow, it slides right off, and the heat goes right out now. My old cabin, it's got cedar shakes on the roof, and the snow, it will stick right to that. It gets good and deep, and it keeps the heat inside. And they insulated the floor there because they got to hang it out over a cliff. For chicken, between the lies, what they call chicken, they use Sicil is called. It's got this loose. So something on your mind that interests you, you know, you feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to do what I can to answer if I know. So, if you got any questions? Yeah.
Would you ever consider building a cabin of yourself up here to your specifications that you would like? Or?
Well, I got my old cabin.
Where's that located?
My old cabin, it's about a half day's walk from here. It's out over the ridge here, out to the southwest, so about 6-7 hours to hike. And I built that back, I don't know, I was in my teenage years. You know, I lived there ever since. So to build another one up here, I don't know. I mean, I went to all the trouble with this one. I don't know if I'd give them another chance.
Do you have any family?
I have a family? No, I don't. No, I mean, you know, out of my old place, you really don't see much of anyone. Yeah. Pretty much the only folks I see are the fellas that I trade with. And I don't see them all that much either, more in the fall. But before the snows really come, I do the, you know, most of my trading and all, you know.
Do they tax you on your cabin that you have across the ridge there?
Tax me? No.
Tax, no tax.
No, I don't pay taxes or use a hot license or like that. I tell you the truth, I come here to Loon, it's nothing that either occurred to me, you know. But when I come here, I met the forestry people and the game wardens and like that. This here, I've been living this way all my life, and my folks before me, and they said they're not going to bother me, and they don't say anyone else will. In fact, a lot of times, I go fishing just about every morning. I head down to Pimlico, wash it, and fish a for breakfast. And a lot of times I see the game wardens